What's up, guys? Ted from Immersion here, and we got it. It's finally out, but we'll get to that a little bit later. So for this D&D update, we've got some interesting new stuff, some out of this, a bunch of new videos, and another new fan, sort of more official created class. So stay tuned. Alright, so what kind of stuff do we have this week? With this being released, I will be doing another video. You can click, probably over here-ish, for a what's new or in this book, where I'm basically just going to go over what new things were added. Not a full review of the book, just a quick flip through. So if you're thinking about picking it up, and you're like, I don't know, they don't have anything for this class or this race or whatever, so just be on the lookout for that. Again, that'll come up before this video, so the link will be over here. What kind of stuff did come out this week? Well, there was this on Geek and Sundry's channel. They do a live playthrough. Well, it's not live. Yeah, it is. It is streamed. It's playthrough of Dungeons and Dragons. It's called Critical Role, and pretty much all of the people involved are voice actors, Dungeon Master, Matthew Mercer included. So they are very in-depth with the way they talk about the characters talk, and it's very in theme, and it is very immersive, and like even the lighting is very well done. But Vin Diesel came on to play his character Colder, who's in the movie The Last Witch Hunter, which just came out yesterday, Friday. So he's there, he's playing as his character Colder with everybody else. And he's playing a custom class that Matthew Mercer designed called the Witch Hunter. So, if you go to, and again, links will always be in the description, it's actually very well done, and it's very in theme with the way a class is designed in Dungeons & Dragons, just even like the background and stuff. So, this is the Witch Hunter class. A lot of background about Witch Hunters. Here's the table. And I like it because they actually grab a lot of interesting facts from other classes, which kind of helps you to realize that it's not like way underpowered or way overpowered, because you're cherry picking pieces from different classes to make it work. So the basis of the Witch Hunter is they do damage to themselves to then further the amount of damage that they can do, and their three different orders that they can choose are very different, which I really like. So, light armor, medium armor, simple weapons, martial weapons, alchemist supplies, strength and wisdom saving throws, a couple of skills. More importantly, perception is one of the skills that you can choose. D8 hit die. And your main thing you start off with is advantage on, basically, like limited favored enemy, advantage on tracking Fey Fiends and Undead, and then eventually you get advantage on saving throws to against their illusions. And this is your other thing, Blood Right, that you get at 2nd level. So, as a bonus action, you wound yourself, and then you smear your weapon in your own blood. And what you do is, at 2nd level, it reduces your maximum hit points by whatever your Witch Hunter level is. So, at 2nd level, your maximum hit points go down by 2. And they stay that way until your next long rest. But, in that time period, you also have, until that long rest, a bonus of +1 bonus to all attacks made with that weapon, and it does an additional d4 of elemental damage, and the damage increases kind of like a monk's unarmed strike does here on this table. So what's nice is you could do that in the morning, lower your maximum hit points, and then you now have a magic weapon at level 2 that does +1 to attack and plus at minimum a d4 damage of an elemental type. When you first get this, you get to choose a primal right, and it chooses the damage type, so it's either fire, cold, lightning, or acid. You get to choose an additional one at 6 and 9, so you can get 3 of these 4. And then at 13th level, you could choose the final 4 of this primal right, or you can choose an esoteric right, which I would highly recommend, because it gives you the option for thunder, force, and necrotic damage. Personally, I'd go for force damage, because it's one of the least resisted damage types in the game. But that's your choice. Ability scores is normal, 2 attacks at level 5. At level 6, they get kind of a bonus action, hold person, kind of similar to, I guess it's basically like a hold person. It's they get, the unfortunate thing is the person you target as a bonus action within 25 feet of you gets a choice of strength or dexterity saving throws, which can kind of screw you over depending. While restrained by the rune, the creature repeats the saving throw at the end of each turn. It also gets a save each turn. On a success, it breaks free. You can only have one active rune of binding, and you can use this a number of times equal to your wisdom mod. 11, all attacks of opportunity against you have disadvantage. 14, you no longer are immune to, or you're immune to the frightened effect, and you have advantage on saving throws against magical charms. 17, you become an immortal, basically. You don't age anymore. And at 20, where you were lowering your maximum hit points when you would use your blood right, at 20, instead of lowering it, you just take damage equal to your level, which is nice because that can be healed back. And then you have 3 orders: the Order of the Ghost Slayer, Order of the Profane Soul, and Order of the Mutant. So, Order of the Ghost Slayer is my personal favorite, although Profane Soul is up there. When you use your blood right, you also do additional damage equal to radiant damage, equal to your wisdom modifier. So at 3rd level, you cut your hand, your attacks are at a +1. It's a magical weapon. It does weapon damage plus a d4 of an elemental type plus your wisdom modifier in radiant damage. It's a ton of damage, especially if you're using something like a greatsword where you're doing 2d6 plus strength mod plus 1d4 plus wisdom mod. It's pretty solid. 7, your hit points, whenever an ability, you subject to ability damage or reduction in your maximum hit points, you take half that amount, and this is mostly to deal with undead, the things that kind of have that ability. At 10, that Rune of Binding feature that I mentioned, it works on creatures that are even immune to the restrained condition. At 15, you get Dark Vision, that's see in normal and magical darkness, and you can also see invisible creatures up to 60 feet, and you can also see onto the ethereal plane out to 60 feet. Kind of that old Ghost Slayer vibe. At 15, when a creature makes an attack of opportunity against you and misses, you can immediately use your reaction to make a melee attack. That's kind of similar to some feat options. And at 18, you can make a voracious strike, and you have to decide this before you're going to attack. If your blow hits, you regain half hit points equal to half the amount of damage that you dealt by the attack. If it misses, you still lose it. And you can use this wisdom modifier a number of times, recharges on a long rest. Profane Soul takes limited warlock spellcasting and infuses it into the kind of core chassis of the Witch Hunter. So as you can see, similar to it doesn't get as powerful as a warlock does. It only gets up to 4th level slots. You only ever get 3 spells, and that's at 17. You only know 3 cantrips, 2 up until 10, and your spells known max out at 11. It is pact magic, so it works the similar way pact magic works for a warlock. It uses wisdom instead of charisma. At 3rd level, you can use your weapon as your arcane focus, which is nice, so you don't have to go for warcast or something like that. At 7, when you use your action to cast a cantrip, you can make a weapon attack, which is big because your cantrip could be Eldritch Blast, it could be Shocking Grasp, it could be one of the new ones like Green Flame Blade in here, which could be really big. At 10, it kind of pulls, I really like this because it pulls from the old kind of Dusk Blade from 3.5 where you can channel a spell through your melee weapon. So as an action, you imbue your weapon or piece of ammunition with one spell that you can cast, then make a single melee attack with that weapon. If the attack hits, the target takes the weapon damage and then is subject to the spell of the effects of the spell. The spell must have a casting time of 1 action and must only target that creature. If the attack misses, the spell misses, and you still expend a future use of this feature. You can do this a number of times equal to your wisdom modifier. You get this back on a long rest. So the only thing, I guess the best way to go about doing this is to choose a single targeting spell that uses an attack roll, because then if you hit with your attack, then it does your attack damage and then that's damage as well. Whereas if you were to do something that requires a save, I believe they would still get the save. So you can basically go through all that effort and then they still take half damage. At 15, you learn to utilize your foe's error in magic. If an enemy attack misses you, you can use your reaction to immediately cast a spell at that creature. The spell must have a casting time of 1 action or less. You can only target that creature. Once you use this feature, you need to finish a short or long rest to use it again. And at 18, when you damage a foe with a warlock spell, you add your wisdom modifier to the damage dealt. So sort of like a limited edition agonizing blast, but more than just Eldritch Blast as far as warlock goes. And then Order of the Mutant, I like it. It's complicated, though, and that's probably why I'm not drawn to it, personally, just because it's more stuff than I'd want to deal with. But essentially, you imbibe these mutagens that you create. So at 3rd level, you learn 3 mutagen formulas, and your options continue to go up as you level up. Additionally, when you learn a new mutagen, you can swap out an old one. You take a short rest to concoct a mutagen. Consuming a single mutagen requires a bonus action, and the effects last until you finish another short or long rest. If anybody else drinks them, they're fatal, and they lose their power if they're not used by the time you finish your next short or long rest. At 7, you can now create 2 mutagens over a short rest, and at 15, you can create 3. At 10, you have immunity to poison. At 15, once you imbibe a mutagen, you can choose to ignore the side effect of a mutagen for its duration. It only works on 1, and you have to finish a long rest before you can use it again. And the reason why is all mutagens have a bonus and a side effect that's a negative. So depending on which one you drink, it could be really powerful to ignore one of the side effects. And then at 18, because you're constantly exposed to all this, your constitution score goes up by 2, as does your maximum constitution. So let's run through the mutagens. There's not too many. So, like you can see here, 7th level, Baleful, you gain resistance to necrotic damage, you gain vulnerability to psychic damage. There's a lot of these, you gain resistance to a type of damage, and gain vulnerability to another kind. The cool ones are like this. Your dex score increases to an amount equal to your con mod, as does your dex maximum. Your wisdom score decreases by 2. So that could be a huge one to be like, you know what, I'm just going to ignore the secondary effect and just boost my dex. You gain an additional action on your turn. You ignore that can only be used to take the attack action, but that's every turn. You have disadvantage on all saving throws. Well, why don't you scrap that, and now you have 2 attack actions every turn. Resistance to damages, immunity to grappled and restrained, dark vision, you gain sunlight sensitivity. Strength score goes up by an amount equal to your con mod, as does your strength maximum. Reduce your dex. Your weapon crits on a 19 to 20. At 12th level, it crits on an 18 to 20. But you have, healing you receive is halved. Your speed increases by 3 times your constitution modifier. You gain a level of exhaustion. You regenerate hit points equal to your level divided by 2 at the start of your turn, as long as you have above 0 hit points, and your speed only decreases by 10. Like, that's one that I could drink, and I feel like I could just live with the reduced speed. Wisdom goes up and strength goes down. Bonus on your initiative equal to 2 times your constitution modifier, 1 level exhaustion, so on and so forth. So that's it, and there's a little bit of information here about Critical Role. So I highly recommend that you check this class out and check with your DM if they'll allow it, because I think it's really cool and it adds a lot of interesting aspects to the game, and the background is pretty cool on it too. So what else do we got? Gale Force 9 came out with a Rage of Demons Dungeon Master screen. I don't have this yet, but I probably will buy it. I've bought every other one and done reviews. Unfortunately, thus far, I have been less than impressed with with any of Gale Force 9's screens. I feel like they focus too much on the art on the screens and not enough on actually putting useful information in there for you. However, it does look like, just based on these images, they put more text in there to give you more useful information. And the art is limited, and the big piece of art is a map, which is useful, not just like text for the sake of text. I'm sorry, art for the sake of art. So, like, if you can see, you can see the Tyranny of Dragons one down here. The whole right panel is just pictures of the NPCs with their names. Did you really need that? So, either way, I'll be getting this, and we'll see what happens. Another video that recently came out is a review for Neverwinter Underdark, which is the new expansion for Neverwinter, which is going to adding, strongholds were added. It's adding a whole new campaign area. I don't believe it's adding a new spell, a new class, but a whole new campaign area to play in. So it is an interview with R.A. Salvatore and all about that. So you can feel free to check that out. It's a short video. I like these videos in these series. They're usually pretty good. They're only about 4 minutes long. So, worth checking out. We mentioned Critical Role before. The D&D podcast, they actually had Matthew Mercer on there to kind of discuss what's going on and what it's like streaming Dungeons and Dragons on Twitch. It's interesting because I'll tell you, from having done it myself, doing an in-person game I feel goes a lot easier on streaming, because if you're doing something with like a virtual tabletop, depending on the tabletop system that you're using, there's only so much you can show without giving things away to the players if they decide to watch the stream afterwards. Or, you know, if you're constantly changing maps, then you're not going to be able to see anything. So be sure to listen to that. On their Tumblr, there's a little bit here on Belaphoss. And the main reason that Belaphoss, they have an article here on him, is because Sword Coast Legends released on Tuesday. And Belaphoss is the main villain of Sword Coast Legends. So I highly recommend that you check out Sword Coast Legends. I'm planning on doing a review on that as well in the future. A lot of reviews going on lately. But Sword Coast Legends it has its own story mode, but it also is a full interactive dungeon master, dungeon building engine, basically, that allows players to play as more like a character rather than like a virtual tabletop. The Out of the Abyss Dungeons and Dragons right now, I believe it's every Thursday. They don't have the information in their description, which is why, guys, come on. But anyway, they have an ongoing live session of they're playing through Out of the Abyss. You may recognize some of the people as people that played on the 48-hour live stream. So I believe session 2 there's session 1 part 1 and 1 part 2, and then session 2 part 1 and 2 part 2, and I believe those are all up on the Dungeons and Dragons YouTube channel, so you can check those out. Speaking of live streams, right now, currently, all of the 48-hour live stream is available on the Dungeons and Dragons Twitch channel to watch. And this one that you can see in the background here is my absolute favorite one, where Andy Munich plays Irony Stone Guns, the Dwarven fighter, played as a puppet. It's at about 24 hours into this 40-hour video. I don't know why they broke the first two up as 4-hour videos and the last one as 40 hours, but whatever. It's about 24 hours in the stream is this video, and this is the one I highly recommend you watch. This is my absolute favorite, so definitely worth a watch. We did get a Sage Advice article, and it was pretty interesting. It was about converting things from previous editions into 5th edition. So some rules about creating your transferring your level, transferring your characters, race conversions, class conversions, spells, proficiencies, feats, something about monsters, different equipment, counter difficulty, things like that. And it actually is interesting because it shows 2nd, 3rd, and 4th edition. So depending on which edition you play, treasure and things like that. It's really interesting. And I haven't spent enough time with this myself because there are a lot of races that were 3.5 that were monster classes that were playable races that I wish were in 5th edition. Like simply a kobold. I love kobolds. I love to play a kobold in 5e, although now sunlight sensitivity in this one is awful, so I don't know. But there's a lot of interesting stuff. If your DM hasn't seen it, I'd recommend pointing them at this just so that they can, if they have something favored that they really liked from a previous edition that didn't make it into this one, this is the rule set to help you do that. And lastly, on the official Wizards of the Coast website, they did an interview with Steve Kenson, who is the guy who designed this lovely book. So you can go ahead and read this. It kind of just talks about the process going into, you know, what was your favorite character. And I believe this is very similar to the Dragon Plus article. So, but yeah, that's it, guys. Pretty much, I don't know. Let me know what you think about the Witch Hunter. That's actually one of my favorite new classes. Although, oh god, there's some good stuff in this book, and I hate to tease it, but you'll just have to check out the other video where I go over what's new in that. And you can also feel free to check out any of our videos. We have our Princes of the Apocalypse campaign actually started to get moving, so that's up on our YouTube and our Twitch. And I'm going to be uploading the Lost Mines of Phandelver Part 3 or 4, whichever it is, later today. So be on the lookout for that. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this D&D weekly update, and I'll see you next time.